There are mornings when you open your eyes and immediately sense a heaviness pressing down on you, even though nothing has happened yet. You haven't scrolled through your phone, spoken to anyone, or stepped out of bed, but the weight is already there. If you're an empath, this sensation is familiar. You absorb everything around you, the emotional climate of your surroundings, the unspoken tension in others, their buried pain and suppressed frustration, even when nothing is verbalized. You move through the world like a receiver, constantly tuned into frequencies that aren't your own, often losing track of what truly belongs to you. Our modern world glorifies constant stimulation, endless notifications, relentless opinions, unhealed wounds parading as normalcy, and a pace that never slows. So when you're someone who observes quietly, who feels deeply, who possesses emotional intelligence, you're often made to feel like something is wrong with you. Then comes the guilt of craving solitude, of needing to decline invitations, of establishing boundaries, of distancing yourself from harmful relationships, or even more challenging, from family members. The guilt that whispers maybe you're the problem. But what if the actual issue is a system that conditioned you to feel ashamed for safeguarding your inner peace? Carl Jung offered a perspective that can fundamentally transform how you see yourself. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Yet here is what happens to empaths. They spend years morphing into what others need them to be. The fixer, the healer, the listener, the emotional container. Usually for people who never reciprocate by asking how you're doing. We remain stuck in these dynamics because we've been taught that leaving is rude or selfish. We learned that respecting your parents means enduring emotional harm. That family bonds are eternal, even when they're destroying your mental well-being. But understand this clearly, that belief system is obsolete, rooted in survival instincts, and it is trapping you in cycles of exhaustion and spiritual disorientation. Here is the truth most people refuse to acknowledge. No one, not your friend, not your employer, not your parent, has the right to deplete your energy. Love without respect isn't love, and relationships lacking reciprocity aren't sacred. They're traps for your soul. In Jungian psychology, individuation represents the journey of discovering your authentic self beyond the masks society demands. For empaths, this journey requires one essential practice: learning to detach from assigned roles, from guilt, from shame, from the notion that being good means abandoning yourself. You weren't born to carry everyone else's emotional baggage. You were born to evolve. But transformation is impossible when your energy is entangled in other people's unresolved darkness. If you're perpetually exhausted, constantly second-guessing yourself, perpetually wondering why motivation eludes you, it is not laziness. It is energetic congestion. Before we go further, if you're someone who seeks to expand consciousness and explore life's deeper dimensions, subscribe to Fractal Wisdom so you won't miss insights like these. Stay with me until the end, because we're going to explore how detachment, shadow work, and strategic self-prioritization can unlock your true purpose. Let's address something empaths rarely get warned about. Being good can be destructive. We're programmed, especially those of us who are sensitive, intuitive, or emotionally perceptive, to believe that goodness equals self-sacrifice, that our value lies in how much suffering we can absorb, how long we can remain in relationships that feel wrong, how much we can endure before finally collapsing. But Carl Jung was explicit. When we suppress our instincts, our shadow gains control. The shadow contains everything you repress. your anger, your sorrow, your impulse to leave people who exploit your kindness. When you ignore it, you don't transcend it, you become it unconsciously. This explains why so many empaths eventually erupt after years of being accommodating. They burn out, break down, or unravel. Not from weakness, but because they were never taught that their needs are valid. So let's be direct. You have every right to walk away from the friend who only reaches out during personal crises, from family members who ridicule your sensitivity, from the partner who manipulates you into constant emotional labor. This isn't selfishness. It is sacred self-preservation. In truth, healthy detachment is the most profound act of self-love an empath can practice. Carl Jung emphasized individuation, the lifelong process of becoming your authentic self, as the only path to genuine peace. But individuation cannot occur through people pleasing. It cannot happen when you're consumed by guilt, because someone convinced you that cutting off family is cruel. Not everyone is meant to accompany you on your healing journey. Some people worry part of your wounding. Some relationships are agreements meant to dissolve once the lesson is complete. Guilt is simply a low-frequency emotion programmed into you to maintain compliance. It is not morality, it is mental conditioning. The same applies to shame. These are energetic poisons. You don't need to heal through them, you need to release them. And here is something even more liberating. You're allowed to care less, not about life itself, but about other people's judgments, about who misinterprets your silence, about disappointing those who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Jung stated that shame is a soul-eating emotion. He was absolutely right. It consumes your drive, suffocates your passion, and transforms motivation into paralysis. So what is the solution? It is radical, powerful, and effective. You begin prioritizing your energy over your reputation. You stop justifying yourself. You stop rescuing people who refuse to grow. You stop believing your worth depends on being endlessly accessible. And something remarkable happens. Motivation resurfaces, not manufactured, not forced, just organic. Because suddenly there is space for your voice, for your vision, for your actual calling. Now that we've uprooted the guilt, what do we cultivate instead? One word: clarity. Clarity is the remedy for empathic overwhelm. But clarity doesn't emerge from doing more. It comes from energetic boundaries, what I call energy hygiene. Think of it as cleansing your soul regularly. Because here is the unspoken reality. Empaths don't need more motivation. They need less interference. Carl Jung may not have used the term energy hygiene, but he profoundly understood psychic boundaries. He believed our unconscious constantly communicates through archetypes, symbols, and energetic impressions. If you're an empath, you inhabit that realm. But without intentional boundaries, you absorb what doesn't belong to you. Other people's anxieties, collective fear, the emotional residue of a toxic ex still lingering in your field months later. This isn't metaphorical. It is energetic reality. Here is something not widely recognized. Not all energy is sacred. Some is sticky, parasitic, manipulative, and deliberately distracting, especially from people who've never done their inner work. If you're sensitive, open-hearted, and spiritually aware but unprotected, you become the perfect target. That is why clearing your space isn't optional. Take inventory. Is your phone a gateway? Are your messages a dumping ground? Is your home filled with objects from someone who harmed you, but you never discarded? Do you sleep beside someone who secretly resents your light? Every object, every interaction, every environment holds frequency, and frequency either elevates you or entraps you. Jung taught that the unconscious is a vast reservoir, but you must explore it with awareness. Empaths do this unconsciously constantly. They feel profoundly but often forget to ask, is this mine? Here is a practical beginning. Burn the letter. Block the contact. Cleanse your space with sound and intention. Meditate with no agenda except releasing what doesn't belong. Use this affirmation: if it drains me, it doesn't deserve me. And now, the most radical practice of all, start saying no without explanation, even to your mother. Especially to the one who always says, after everything I've done for you. Empaths are often conditioned to equate love with suffering. That must end. Because if your light is authentic, and it is, then you're here to create, build, heal, innovate, contribute. That requires energy, focus, and unapologetic detachment. And no, this isn't cruelty. It is You're not being harsh by protecting your purpose. You're simply no longer volunteering to be someone's emotional dumping ground. So don't attempt to fix everyone. Fix your frequency. The right people will appear when you're no longer in survival mode from other people's chaos. You were never meant to diminish yourself, but they convinced you that being kind meant being silent, that being empathetic meant being available, that being spiritual meant being self-sacrificing. That was programming, conditioning, a system designed to keep you useful but not powerful, because a powerful empath is rare, that is threatening to the status quo, and that is precisely what you're becoming. Carl Jung's concept of individuation wasn't about conforming, it was about integration, confronting your shadow, owning your completeness, becoming fully yourself, not what the world demanded you to be. And understand this, that process is uncomfortable, isolating, even disruptive to your former identity. That is why the path to motivation for you isn't hustle, it is healing. And the most significant healing of all, permission to be selfish, not in the narcissistic disregard, every own way, but in the soul-centered I choose, myself way. The way that honors your boundaries, values your time, declares my needs matter too. When you stop over-functioning, you begin hearing your own voice again. You start remembering your mission, your creativity, your path, your essence. That is where motivation originates. Not from force, not from deadlines, not from guilt, but from alignment. You get clear, you get still, you get authentic. And suddenly you stop hemorrhaging energy into other people's wounds. You stop explaining your healing. You stop apologizing for your radiance because you realize something profound. No one has the right to diminish you, not even those who claim to love you, especially not them. Guilt or obligation. It is acceptable to leave situations where your soul isn't nourished. It is acceptable to desire a life that feels clean, light, intentional. It is acceptable to protect your space as if it is sacred, because it is. And here is the unexpected twist most people never anticipate. When you finally become selfish enough to heal, the right people start appearing. People who don't need fixing. People who are walking their own path. People who love you in your power, not your pain. So don't dilute yourself to be palatable. Let the complete you be visible. Let your focus return by detoxing from what was never yours. Let your energy communicate louder than your words. Because your mission as an empath isn't to rescue everyone. Your mission is to remain clear, remain sovereign, and become the lighthouse. And the lighthouse doesn't chase ships. It stands tall, steady, and powerful. Some ships find their way, others crash. That is not your responsibility. Yours is to shine. If this message resonated as medicine for your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe so you never miss moments like this, and leave a comment below. Let's discuss what you're releasing and what you're moving toward. This isn't just a channel. It is a sanctuary for deep feelers who are finally choosing themselves.